5. Akaba's Underwater Military Museum. In July of 2019, the world's first ever underwater military museum was created off the shores of Akaba, Jordan in the Red Sea. It took 30 days of planning before a total of 21 wartime vehicles were sunk into the sea in battle formation. The launch ceremony took place on July 25th, and Akaba Special Economic Zone Authority's Chief Commissioner, Naya Bakit, stated that it's the first product of its kind in the region. The site draws in tourists from all over the world. The vehicles that were sunk include tanks of varying sizes, a military crane, an ambulance, anti-aircraft guns, a combat helicopter, and a troop carrier. ASEZA oversaw the whole project, and in their press release, they said that all of the hazardous material were removed from the equipment in order to comply with the environmental best practices. Everything was meticulously planned, and even the location for the museum was precisely chosen due to its lack of coral and marine life. Those involved in the creation of the underwater museum are hopeful that the new attraction will not only lure in more divers to Akaba, but that it'll also help to alleviate the heavy burden of increased tourism on their local coral reefs. The head of ASEZA's Beaches Administration, Abdullah Abu Awali, claims that the new artificial sites will reduce the pressure on the area's natural coral reefs. All of the machines were sunk in depths ranging from 49 to 92 feet from the surface, which allows visitors to enjoy the underwater attraction through snorkeling, scuba diving, and glass-bottom boat tours as well. In the years to come, ASEZA says that the military museum will grow as new equipment becomes available. 4. Lockheed L1011 TriStar. The L1011 TriStar is an American-made wide-body medium to long-range tri-jet airliner. Built by the Lockheed Corporation and was first flown in November of 1970. After 6 long years of unforeseeable setbacks, the California-based company unveiled the unique aircraft with state-of-the-art features. The TriStar's flight control system, speed control, navigation system, direct lift control system, stability system, and autopilot were all superior to any similar craft built around the same time. It first entered service with Eastern Airlines in 1942, equipped with its one-of-a-kind engine that was surprisingly manufactured solely by Rolls-Royce. The plane was roughly 242,500 pounds, 178 feet long, and had a top speed of 605 miles per hour. Between the years of 1968 and 1984, a total of 250 TriStars were assembled by Lockheed at their plant in Southern California at the Palmdale Regional Airport. However, the aircraft sales were severely hampered over a 2-year period of financial and developmental problems at Rolls-Royce. Production eventually came to a complete halt because of the plane's below-target sales. The last TriStar was delivered in 1984. Interestingly, ASEZA in Jordan acquired one of these planes that had been out of service and was parked at King Hussein International Airport for many years. They purchased the TriStar with the intention of sinking it into the Red Sea. ASEZA had already sunk the military aircraft Hercules C-130 in November of 2017, and they thought the TriStar would fit in nicely as a new attraction to the dive site. The plane was dismantled, transferred to Akaba's main port, and then reassembled. After several proposed sinking sites were uncovered, ASEZA's technical team began scanning along the Jordanian coast to find the perfect place for the TriStar. They eventually decided on a location for the scuttling near the old port of Phosphate, and it was finally sunk in August of 2019 at a depth of 59 to 92 feet. This new addition is just one of the many machines you can find under the water in Akaba, Jordan, and it's considered to be part of the Underwater Military Museum dive site that we mentioned previously. The TriStar was sunk in a spot that's completely free of coral reefs, and it sits in a space with wide, flat, sandy regions. There are seagrass meadows surrounding the plane, and the presence of the aircraft will begin to allow the creation of new artificial coral reefs, which will act as a habitat for fish and other marine life. The plane was sunk at a depth range that makes it a perfect dive site for tourists to explore, and freedivers, scuba divers, and snorkelers are now able to experience this amazing underwater aircraft for themselves. 3. Christ of the Abyss. On the Italian Riviera, just off the coast of San Fruttuoso, located in the Mediterranean Sea, sits an eerie 9-foot bronze statue of Jesus Christ known as Christ of the Abyss. The statue was created by the Italian artist and sculptor Guido Galletti in 1954 and was placed under the water on August 22nd of that same year. Galletti melted and fused together medals, bells, and naval artifacts in order to acquire the large amount of bronze needed for his creation. It rests at a depth of 56 feet below the surface and was inspired by Duilio Marcante, an Italian diver. He was a true pioneer of diving techniques, and he wanted to dedicate the statue in honor of his friend Dario Gonzatti. Dario had been the first ever Italian to use scuba gear for his dives, and he tragically passed away near the location where Christ of the Abyss now rests. The statue depicts Jesus Christ offering a benediction of peace, and he has his hands and head raised towards the sky. It now acts as a point of reference for divers in distress, and it's since become a symbol for all scuba divers. This spot is a unique experience for anyone who visits. The natural beauty of the protected marine area is hard to beat. Due to its location in relatively shallow waters, the statue has protection from the bay against powerful winds, which makes this a fairly easy dive site. Interestingly, there are several other bronze statues in various other locations, cast from the same mold as the original Christ of the Abyss. One of these replicas was placed in the waters in the St. George, Grenada coastline in October of 1961. It was offered as a gift from the Navy of Genoa for assistance in the rescue of the crew from the Italian vessel Bianca C, which had caught fire and burned just outside St. George's port. Then, there's also a third statue located in the water that was placed roughly 6 miles off the coast of Key Largo, Florida. This replica was presented to the Underwater Society of America in 1962 in New York by Egidio Cresci, an Italian dive equipment manufacturer. This incarnation was submerged in the John Pennekamp Coral Reef State Park near Dry Rocks, and incidentally became the United States' first ever underwater park. If you could create your own underwater statue, what would it be? Let us know in the comments and hit that subscribe button while you're at it. 2. Japan's sunken pyramids. One of the craziest mysteries in all of Japan is the nature and origin of certain underwater stone structures that lie at the bottom of the sea off the coast of Yonaguni Island. Masaki Kimura, a Japanese marine biologist, has identified a total of 10 structures near Yonaguni and another 5 similar structures off the main island of Okinawa. The sunken architecture includes the ruins of a castle, 5 temples, a triumphal arch, and at least 1 giant stadium, all of which are connected by water channels and roads. Surrounding these sunken buildings is what researchers believe to be the partial remains of the retaining walls. All of the discovered ruins cover an area of about 984 feet by 492 feet. Also found among the rubble was an inscription on a rock that appears to belong to the ancient Kaida script. It was a writing system used by the Yaeyama Islands as well as Yonaguni Island before Japan's current education system was introduced. The relics date back to at least 5,000 years ago, according to Kimura, based on the dating of stalactites found inside underwater caves which are believed to have sank along with the city. However, the most insane structure that's found in this lost Japanese city is an 82-foot monolithic, a complicated building that many believe to be a stepped pyramid. The Yonaguni formations were first noticed by a local diver in 1986 and have since been visited by numerous researchers and tourists. There are some experts that believe the site could be what's left of Mu, which is a fabled Pacific civilization that was rumored to have vanished beneath the water. Toru Uchi, a professor of seismology at Kobe University, visited the ruins of the lost city and says he's touched the pyramid himself. He is in support of Kimura's hypothesis, which states that the amazing underwater formation is likely man-made and not created naturally. But there are many who oppose this theory, like Robert Scotch from Boston University, who's proposed that the holes in the rock were merely created by underwater eddies scouring and depressions. He also thinks that circles of smaller holes were likely created by marine creatures. The underwater structure, known today as the Yonaguni Monument, is one of the world's most unusual sights. It's even been nicknamed Japan's Atlantis and is a rectangular stacked pyramid-like monument and is believed to be more than 10,000 years old. There seem to be perfectly shaped stone steps with amazingly straight edges that many believe could not have been created naturally. Scotch and other skeptics claim that the area at which this structure was discovered is prone to earthquakes and could be the reason for the fascinating geological phenomenon. However, nothing has been confirmed as of today, and it's still unknown as to whether the Yonaguni monument really is an ancient pyramid or if it's just a unique and natural underwater formation. 1. The city of Heraklion. In the year 2000, a team led by Frank Goddio, a French marine archaeologist from the European Institute for Underwater Archaeology, made a fascinating discovery in the Mediterranean Sea. An ancient city that was engulfed underwater nearly 1,500 years ago had been rediscovered for the first time and was identified as the lost city of Heraklion. Heraklion was once the largest port city in all of Egypt and dates back as early as the 12th century BC. It has many links to ancient Greece and flourished long ago during the times of the pharaohs. Sadly, the city was devastated over the years and had been weakened by a combination of tsunamis, rising sea levels, and earthquakes, according to archaeologists. Towards the end of the 2nd century BC, possibly after a severe flood, the massive buildings of Heraklion collapsed and disappeared into the water. Some of the city's inhabitants continued to stay in the remaining ruins that were left, but by the end of 8th century AD, the entirety of Heraklion sank into the Mediterranean. Today, many incalculable treasures have already been brought up from the city's watery grave and have been put on display around the globe, which allows us to get a glimpse into the ancient Egyptian and Greek world. In the city's prime, it was located just 20 miles northeast of Alexandria, but its remains can now be found in Abu Qir Bay, situated roughly 1.5 miles from the coast. Heraklion amazingly sits only 30 feet under the water, and it's surprising that it wasn't discovered earlier. Heraklion, also known by its Egyptian name Thonis, was originally constructed on a couple of adjoining islands in the Nile Delta. The city was intersected by a number of canals with separate anchorages and harbors. At its peak, there were amazing temples and tower houses linked by bridges, ferries, and pontoons in the late period of ancient Egypt. This place was the country's main port for the collection of taxes and international trade. After the great city sank about 2,000 years ago, Goddio's team, with collaboration from the Egyptian Supreme Council, were the first to rediscover it beneath the Mediterranean Sea. On Goddio's own website, he explains that the objects that were recovered from the excavations illustrated the city's glory and beauty. He says that the magnificence of their grand temples, colossal statues, architectural elements and inscriptions, coins and jewelry and ritual ceramics all show evidence of a civilization frozen in time. Goddio and his team uncovered priceless treasures from their excavations, which include part of a temple dedicated to Amun/Heracles, a bronze statue of the king or god Osiris, and a ginormous red granite statue of the fertility god Hapi. Since these objects have been brought back to land, they're now on display at the Grand Egyptian Museum located in Cairo. When Heraklion was discovered back in 2000, Goddio estimated that not even 5% of the city had been discovered, meaning there was still a lot to find in the Mediterranean Sea. When his team went back to the site for another mission in 2021, they found a Ptolemaic galley submerged beneath the waters, which they believe was sunk after it was hit by giant blocks from the Temple of Amun. This find was extremely rare, and it's only the second fast galley to be discovered from this time period. Excavations at the site are still ongoing to this day, and who knows what other amazing artifacts they'll find in the coming years. Which of these underwater finds did you find the most fascinating? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye!